stick around. Please welcome back to the stage our director, Mr. Tyler.
Thank you. I want to bring that Asian color as well. Who's here with us forever.
Thanks so much for joining us tonight. So I'll start off with a couple questions, then we'll open it up to some questions from the audience. Well, first of all, I mean, I think there's a pretty clear influence of the Jonestown Massacre on this film. Yep. Can you tell us a little bit about what it is about that story, that source story that inspired you? Did you do a lot of research into the details of that incident, or?
Yeah, I know a lot about Jonestown just by the nature of being a sort of kind of creepy person who's interested in dark things. But really, I wanted to make a movie. The last movie I made was a sort of very lighthearted romantic comedy ghost story. So I wanted to make something that was nothing like that. And I wanted to make something that was a horror movie that had no supernatural elements whatsoever. So I was trying to think about the most horrible things that I could think of that sort of exist that affected me. And so I've always been fascinated with Jonestown People's Temple, and I thought that this was sort of an interesting way to tell it in a sort of like faux documentary style. Because Jonestown, that essentially exists, there is like I don't know if it's about Jonestown because NBC was filming as it was all going down. It was the point where the Karen was killed while he was doing it. So it lends itself to sort of updating that story because I think a lot of the reasons people joined People's Temple in the 60s and 70s are still relevant today. And so I kind of based it around that because I wanted to use something that had a cultural relevance, and that's why I use Vice as well as the name of a fake brand. I wanted stuff that would hopefully transcend the experience of just seeing it here, stuff that when you leave here and you think about the movie, there's things that would draw you back to it outside of the movie. So it was always interesting to me to kind of, in making a movie that was very realistic, go all the way to that sense of authenticity.
AJ, I'm so glad you could join us here today. Can you tell us a little bit about what the shooting experience was like for you?
Yeah, it was horrific. I was fortunate enough to tie with the park point, and so we already had a lot of conversations about it before. And the trick was, there's some technical things where, for a decade, I've been making movies, and this was the first one, and I was like, look into the camera. So we had to get past a couple of technical barriers and sort of rewire some stuff. And then beyond that, Ty and I powwowed and found it really important to kind of, what was interesting about playing a Vice guy and single source sort of doc style was that we wanted to make sure that there were a couple of personalities present. So we had one where the guy's into camera performing like a Vice dude. Then we had another one where he's interviewing people, and we had one where he sort of drops all of that. So it was basically character building in 3 parts, and essentially trying to host Ty's movie, which is, now that she's seen a really fucked up role.
So it seems like a lot of these roles were sort of written with actors in mind. These are people that a lot of you worked with before. And tell us a little bit about Father and how you found that actor.
Yeah, pretty much everybody in the movie, I wrote it specifically for them because I knew them and I had control of the casting on this movie. So what was really great is to write a movie for somebody and then just have that person do it because it just makes life so much easier. And I knew that I could write it to their strengths and to their voices, and they could only just expand upon it. The one person who I didn't write it for was Gene Jones, who plays Father. And that was a really daunting part, obviously, for anyone. And it was really, casting was also a sort of terrifying thing because if he was not good in the movie, it was just like doomed. This true story that's called Gene, the way I discovered him is that I had no idea what I was going to do, and I was watching an episode of Louis, and he has a very small part in one episode where he's a pharmacist, where Louis waiting in line and the woman in front of him is taking forever and asking all these obnoxious questions, and he's the pharmacist and he goes and goes, "Have you had a bowel movement today? Was it soft?" And just shames her in the meeting, and that's it. And I was like, that's the guy. And so we tracked it down, and he did an audition, and he likes to say the audition was bad, but I think it was very good. And then the other great Gene story is that, so the big interview scene, that was basically his first day on the movie, and that was a nightmare of a scene to film because it was called his dialogue, there was 200 extras, it was night, it was just like, this was the thing that was going to just destroy them. Everyone was just really stressed out. And so we didn't know Gene that well, we did a little bit, and we set up the shop and said, we'll do Gene's angles first, and basically said, okay, Gene, you're going to walk in, everyone's going to cheer, you're going to sit down and do your thing. I don't really know what's going to happen. I don't want to talk the extras yet. I just kind of want to figure out where the wheels fall off, and then we'll fix that, and then we'll do it in chunks. So we're like, okay, we'll see what happens. And the first take is basically everything in there. That Gene walked out, everyone went crazy. He came and sat down, did 17-minute take without dropping a line, got up, walked out, and left. And it was incredible. And what was amazing is that not only was he just amazing, everybody like looked over at me and like, I think we're gonna be okay. But like all the stuff, the extras, like, I hadn't gotten a chance to direct the extras yet. I was like, well, that's gonna be a headache. We'll just do that later. First, we'll just see what happens. So all the reactions, which are amazing, and the scene was like, oh, great, I didn't have to do that. And on the other hand, it's sort of terrifying because they don't know what the movie's about. They're just there to be extras for one night. So they don't know what this movie is. They're just like, I agree with everything you're saying. And it was like this weird feeling of like, he's acting so good that it makes sense to them. And it was really like, there was a weird energy in the air that night. It was, I know, I'm sure AJ could say, but that was a really, like, every movie has one really amazing day, and that was ours. And, you know, Gene is obviously terrific, and he's sort of the anchor of the movie, so it's a real pleasure to get into the show and do everything.
AJ, you and Gene go on as well.
Gene's wonderful, and Gene was really great to work with. With the guys that we've made a few movies with, lots of times improv becomes a big part of it. And on this one, when you're talking about, largely single sourcing, you don't get to jump in for coverage. And so, like Ty was mentioning, the first take in that scene was 17.5 minutes long. And, if we got to minute 14 and something was wrong, we couldn't use it. It was an all or nothing for every take that we would use. And so the night before we shot that, Ty and I went into my room and she came in and was like, I don't really want to talk about this. We sat down, he indulged us, and we were like, okay, we'll just see where we're at, just like we did the next night. And he sat down in my room and we just went right through the 12-page scene, and we were like, Ty and I were like, okay, well, that will probably be okay. And then when we shot it, it was easily the most profound night of a shoot that I've ever worked on. It's kind of an out-of-body experience, and he was so wonderful with it. It was sort of like doing a play. Both of us are stage actors, and so it was great to get to go in and prepare the scene and essentially play it for 200 people. The only thing that really sucked about it that I found out on this one is that pretty much all extras are method actors. And so in between takes or for the rest of the shoot, wherever I went, they all told me that they were going to kill me, and my father was going to set me on fire. They didn't even know what, like I said, they didn't know what the movie was about. They were just inferring that Gene was going to murder me and that I deserved it. Which is a testament to how good Gene is. It was a comfortable thing.
Well, let's take a few questions from the audience. Do you have any questions? I'm sorry, the spotlight. It's kind of hard to see some stuff. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
For Ty, you're working with found footage, which obviously has lots of rules. How hard did you find it? Because I think the film does stick with most of the rules that the found footage genre sets out. How hard did you find it working within those constraints to sort of not make it unbelievable that someone would be filming this?
Did everybody hear that? Okay. So, not very hard. I think that I always thought that the movie more was a documentary than a movie. I know that sounds like semantics, but to me it was always something made by professional filmmakers and then put together after the fact. So, it just, you adapt to it. Like, you just know that you're kind of filming it from this perspective, and some things are more edited than other things, and it just, you set apart different set pieces and you think of creative ways to do things. I think by having the characters be filmmakers, particularly like a DP and like an on-camera guy, there's not too much chaotic stuff in the movie because they're good at filming, so that made life a little bit easier. But really, it was about going for a sense of like video journalism authenticity, something that felt realistic, and having, like you said, people occasionally looking at the camera and the presence of that being a weird presence more than anything else. I mean, it's weird that you just set out to make that movie, you're like, well, this is what we're doing. So it's not really that hard. Editing the movie is a challenge because you have so much footage. I've never had so much footage in my life, and it's been a really long time to edit the movie. And it was very difficult to edit, but shooting it was not a big deal. And you know, the only thing that was actually, you do a lot of really long takes, like Andrew was saying, so you do takes where, you know, when Joe runs in and then he goes and hides in the thing and they slit the poor girl's throat, like, you can't have anything go wrong, because it's like, camera's gonna go in the door, see them, land, acting, effect, gag thing, and where other guy comes in, it's like, if any time it goes wrong, the whole thing's scrapped. There's a lot of lines like that in the movie, and you would do that differently if it wasn't a like documentary style movie. But you know, those are just the projects that are there.
Well, it's kind of interesting that that you say that these are sort of you know, this is sort of a trend in the found footage stuff, but it sounds like so. I'm trying to get around to my question here, but when you were saying earlier that there actually is found footage of the Jonestown incident, so this sort of project was that always sort of inspired by that fact that there is this footage out there of these horrible atrocities that you wanted to make it from the found footage first person perspective?
Yeah, and it helped connect the two. But I think that the reason I sort of did it this way is that, again, trying to make a movie that was entirely superheroism with no supernatural aspects and really was more horrific than a horror movie. This is the way you would find out about this happening. You find out from some news or some online thing. You know, that's the way we digest our content now. And sort of terrible, horrible real life stuff. This is generally how I see it, whether it's on someone's phone, whether it's from the news, whether like that's. And so to me, in going for this like very, you know, intense, realistic vibe, it just made sense to present it in a way that felt appropriate.
I think also the choice of Vice is very tone perfect because they are exactly that sort of organization that you find just these super weird, super crazy, super out there sort of aspects of our culture and our world.
Yeah, the other thing that's great about Vice is that to me they don't feel like they have a sort of objective, like, you know, if it was Fox News making this movie, they would have a very slanted thing, or if MSNBC would be a very different slanted thing. Whereas Vice to me, like, does feel honestly subjective, that they're going to see things, they don't have an agenda, they're not trying to appease something other than their own brand. And I just think that was interesting because it was cool to see. I'd never seen a movie about a cult where you got to understand, like Andy's character says in the movie, like, I can see why people want to live this way. I don't want to live this way, but it's not crazy that they are. And I feel like you would need a like honest portrayal of that. And I think that the mainstream media that's not really what they do, you know? And so in trying to find someone that would make sense to be in a situation like this and that would also present it in this way, they made a lot of sense.
Did you guys talk to anyone from Vice, or has anyone from Vice seen the film? Or?
Yeah, I mean, we, you know, not that bold to just do it. But no, it was no big deal. You know, we just talked about it and pitched the movie and everything.
Cool. Who else has a question? Yes, sir, right here.
I just want to know, how do you kind of deal with, because I would assume that there's a little bit of flack kind of dealing with the Jonestown subject matter, or being influenced by that. How do you kind of explain that?
To clarify a little bit more, I have to talk about it. Do you mean as in people will be upset that I movie that has to do with Jonestown, or do you mean like why didn't I actually just make Jonestown movie?
Yeah, how do you differentiate between the two?
Well, okay, so the reason that I didn't make Jonestown movie is that I think that story is far too dense to do in an hour and a half or 2 hours. That's a mini series. I mean, to do a real life thing like that justice, I think you have to start in Indiana with him, and you have to go all the way through from Indiana to San Francisco to Ukiah to Guyana till after the series. Like, you have to go through the whole thing, and otherwise it's unfair because it's about real people. And you know, I think this movie came out of my desire to want to make like an 8-part miniseries about it, but that's not gonna happen. So I made my own movie. But and as far as like, you know, whether it's, I mean, I'm sure if somebody saw the movie that's close to Jonestown, they're not gonna enjoy this movie. That's understandable. But I think that we tried really hard to be to not really have a point of view about religion or about the situation. I mean, for me, what's so scary about what happened in Jonestown, and I do in this movie, is that these weren't like crazy mindless zombies who drank the Kool-Aid. You know, that's what people know because it became part of pop culture. It's like, oh, the Kool-Aid, you know. And that's unfair because really, it was much more of a mass murder than it was mass suicide. And I think a lot of people don't fully understand that. And so what I was trying to do was hopefully present characters that you're like, I can understand why they're there. And they shouldn't do this, but I understand how it's happening, and I understand how it's getting out of control. And so I think that, you know, I can understand if people felt uncomfortable about that, but I feel very okay from my place. I wasn't making an exploitative movie about it. I was making a movie that was all the violence in this movie is really unpleasant. This is not a fun movie. This is not like a loud midnight movie where everyone's cheering when someone dies. Ideally, it should be a real bummer. It should be confrontational with the subject matter. And I think that is the point of doing something about something real like this.
I think we have time for one more question. Oh, yes.
Where exactly did you guys shoot on location, and how long were you shooting for?
We shot in Savannah, Georgia, and we were there. We shot for 18 days, and the funny thing is that location is just someone's backyard. It's literally just like a hayfield in the back of someone's yard. So we built everything. And so we spent about 6 weeks building it, and then 18 days shooting, which is just like, again, another intensely short time to shoot a movie in, but we made it work.
So did you guys stay in a hotel?
Yeah, some people got apartments. I stayed in a lovely hotel by the airport. Yeah, the Sabre Suite in Savannah, I looked it up. Yeah, I mean, it was, what's really kind of amazing, and this is sort of a good moment to end on, is that, like, I made several movies, and you build sets, and you tear them down, you shoot a real place, and you leave, and you have some fondness for it, or some hatred for it. But I never made a movie where you built a society, and then populated it with the same 200 extras for 4 weeks, and then you went, well, we're done, and then just tore it all down and threw it away, and all the extras went home. And that's a really strange feeling to have, because it's not just a regular movie set. The people were walking around like they lived there, and the movie was about social and economic and racial and political issues, and they were all in it, and it just was so weird to be like, well, see you guys in LA, and they just tore it down and scrapped everything. And like, I'm still not entirely sure how I feel about it. It was a very interesting, like, emotional experience to go through. And I know that the guy who lived there wanted to keep, so he might have a few of the little huts, but he wanted to keep the big house there, but he didn't want to pay taxes on it, so we had to tear it down.
Well, I think that's all the time we have for tonight, but thank you guys so much.
Thank you guys for coming out.